So you ever hear the term practice what you preach? Well, I want you to know that us pastors take that very literally. I mean, we have to experience it very literally. This idea of practicing what we have just preached on Sunday, or perhaps practicing what we have just preached on an online video. So that is why I'm back here in this kitchen. It is I guess you could say, sort of a confession video. Because about last month, I was here in the kitchen and I did a devotional for you all that was called Frustration. And it was talking about how there were certain things that were frustrating me, and how these things that were frustrating me were really trivial things, right? Do you remember that? And I mentioned that Jesus too was frustrated, but Jesus's frustrations really seemed to be more epic than my frustrations and more proper. Anyway, I did that video and I had a lot of people talking to me about that. They were talking to me about how, yeah, they experience the same thing and how frustrations are such a part of our life. And then something happened to me. I was back out here in the kitchen and I was making dinner in advance because I knew that I wanted to get some stuff done early because it was going to be a Sunday dinner and I wanted to have it all ready. So I made this sauce in this little container here, and it had olive oil and it had soy sauce and it had balsamic vinegar and sugar. I mean, it had all this wonderful stuff in it. And I finished it and it was good, and I took this Saran Wrap and I pulled it out and I went to put it on there, and when I did, I hit this and it went all over the counter. I mean, all over the counter. And I lost my mind as this sauce dripped through the counter, down onto the floor, into the dishwasher. I just lost my mind. And I had a towel, and I took that towel and I threw it across the room, and it went over to the corner over here, and it broke the thing we keep our garlic in. And we found out later that this little spill also messed up my dishwasher because the sugar got in there and it made the latch stick. Isn't it great? I fixed it. But in that moment, when I lost my mind, I thought, practice what you preach. I mean, here I had just finished talking about how we need to let go of our frustrations, and a stupid thing like spilled sauce on the counter made me lose my mind. It reminded me of the parable that Jesus tells right at the end of his Sermon on the Mount. I mean, here Jesus had just done this great sermon. Now, I'm not going to accuse him of not practicing what he preached, because he did, but this is what he says at the end to those who were listening to his sermon. He says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like the wise man who built his house on rock. The rains fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on a rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them is like the foolish man who has built his house on the sand. The rains fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall." So here's the thing. I looked at that parable and I thought, both of these individuals who are building their house experience rains and floods and winds. They experience the frustrations and the struggles of life. But one of them, because he is practicing what Jesus had just preached, is able to withstand that. And the other one throws a towel and breaks his garlic holder. Right? I mean, practicing what we preach, putting into action those things that we read in Scripture, all of those things are only as good as our actions. And if we don't put them into practice, we're going to continue on with the same experience we did before, and we're never going to learn, and we're never going to be able to let go of those things that cause us harm. So, confession done, lesson hopefully learned. I don't know what that lesson is. Maybe don't throw towels. Maybe don't buy cheap Saran Wrap. I don't know what it is. But lesson learned. And I'm hoping to figure out how to continue to find ways to practice what I preach. Before I end, just a little PS. The sink still doesn't work, but that's going to be on my to-do list next week, I promise.